Introduction. Have you ever woken up feeling more exhausted than when you went to bed? Not just physically tired, but mentally heavy, like your soul is carrying a weight no one else can see. You go through the motions, ticking boxes, showing up, smiling when expected, pushing forward because, well, that's what strong people do. But deep down, you know something isn't right. Your spark is gone. Your light feels dimmer. Your energy, the vibrant, powerful force that once made you feel alive, seems to have vanished. You're not alone. So many of us are walking around drained, not just because of long to-do lists or endless responsibilities, but because we've become disconnected from our source. We're not just tired, we're depleted. We've given so much of ourselves to the world, to people, to expectations, to survival, that we forgot how to give to ourselves. We forgot that our energy is sacred, that it needs nurturing, protecting, and restoring. This book is not just another motivational pep talk. It's not here to tell you to hustle harder or fake it till you make it. You've done that. You've pushed. You've performed. You've been everything to everyone, except to yourself. And now, something inside you is whispering, enough. The power is within is your invitation to pause, breathe, and begin the journey back to yourself. It's a journey inward, to the quiet place where your power has always lived, even if it's been buried under years of exhaustion, pain, or silence. This is not about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you were before the world told you to shrink, to dim your light, to be quiet, to endure without rest. Throughout these chapters, you'll uncover how your energy was lost in the first place, not just through physical demands, but through emotional wounds, overcommitment, unresolved trauma, and living out of alignment with your truth. You'll learn to recognize the patterns that keep you drained and the subtle ways you've been taught to ignore your own needs. But more importantly, you'll learn how to reclaim your power, gently, intentionally, and fully. This book offers more than information. It offers transformation. You will find your strength not in force, but in softness, not in noise, but in stillness, not in perfection, but in presence. You will rediscover rituals that recharge your spirit, boundaries that protect your peace, and truths that remind you just how powerful you've always been. So, if you're tired of being tired, if you're ready to stop surviving and start living again, if you're ready to finally say, I matter too, then turn the page. Your energy is not gone. It's waiting for you. Chapter 1. The Silent Drain. How you lost your energy without realizing. Most people don't notice the moment their energy begins to disappear. It doesn't happen all at once like a blown fuse or a sudden collapse. It happens quietly, subtly, like a leak under the floorboards or a candle burning too long in the dark. You go about your day, functioning, surviving, meeting deadlines, answering calls, showing up, all while something inside you begins to dim. You don't remember exactly when you stopped feeling vibrant, only that one day you realize you didn't feel anything at all. That silent drain, that gradual erosion of your inner power, is what this chapter is about. Energy loss isn't always about physical exhaustion. It's emotional, spiritual, and psychological. And the sources of that drain often were the mask of normal life. One of the most dangerous thieves of energy is a toxic relationship. This doesn't only mean romantic partners. It can be a friend, a coworker, a family member, anyone who makes you question your worth, manipulates your emotions, takes more than they give, or demands parts of you you're not ready to offer. You start tiptoeing around their moods, dimming your voice, shrinking your truth just to keep the peace. Over time, you lose yourself trying to carry them. Then there's overthinking, that constant inner monologue that never turns off. The analyzing, doubting, replaying conversations, predicting disasters that haven't happened. You live inside your head, wearing yourself out with what ifs and should haves, using mental energy like a candle in the wind. It's exhausting to fight imaginary battles in your mind all day long. But you've gotten so used to it, you don't even recognize it as a source of fatigue. People-pleasing is another silent energy vampire. You say yes when you want to say no. You smile when you're hurting. You show up for everyone else, even when your tank is empty. You think you're being kind, but it's self-abandonment disguised as kindness. The truth is, every time you betray your own needs for someone else's comfort, you make a withdrawal from your soul. And over time, your internal bank account goes bankrupt. In today's world, one of the most underestimated sources of energy drain is digital stimulation. The scrolling, the constant pinging of notifications, the mental load of watching other people's lives unfold online while yours feels stuck. Social media was designed to keep your attention, but in the process, it's been stealing your presence. It's hard to feel whole when you're always plugged into everyone else's highlights. You compare, you spiral, you feel not enough, and then try to post something to feel seen. And that endless cycle chips away at your emotional peace. All of this leads to a unique kind of exhaustion, one that coffee can't fix. It's the fatigue that sleep doesn't heal. You wake up and still feel tired. You laugh, but your smile feels forced. You try to rest, but your mind won't let you. That's the sign you're dealing with more than just a full schedule. You're carrying an invisible weight. Spiritual fatigue shows up as disconnection. Emotional fatigue feels like numbness. Physical fatigue looks like always pushing yourself through the day, like you're swimming through heavy water. We've been taught a dangerous myth, that rest is weakness and burnout is noble. Just push through, they say. No pain, no gain. But where has that gotten us? To hospitals, to mental breakdowns, to silent battles behind closed doors. Rest isn't laziness. It's a form of wisdom. Your body was never meant to run on fumes. Your soul was never meant to live in survival mode forever. Real power isn't in how much you can carry. It's in knowing when to set it down. Before you can reclaim your energy, you have to know where it's going. Awareness is the first step. Take a moment and reflect, not with guilt, but with honesty. Who or what drains you the most? What do you feel most exhausted after spending your time? What do you do out of obligation, not joy? What parts of yourself have you silenced just to keep peace? Ask yourself this. When do you feel most alive? And when do you feel most invisible? Who are you around when you feel deeply heard? And who leaves you feeling small, no matter how loud you speak? The answers to those questions are your starting point. This chapter isn't about blaming others or yourself. It's about opening your eyes to what's been quietly stealing your strength. Because you cannot fix what you cannot see. And the longer you walk through life unaware of these silent drains, the harder it becomes to remember what it feels like to be energized, inspired, and whole. You are not made to live tired. You are made to live fully. And now that you've seen the leaks, you're ready to begin the repair. The rest of this journey will guide you step by step. But for now, breathe. You've already taken the first and most important step, seeing what you've been ignoring for far too long. The tragedy of energy loss is that it often disguises itself as being responsible, being strong, or being the good one. You tell yourself you're supposed to take care of everything and everyone. You tell yourself it's just a phase. You tell yourself it's not that bad. Other people have it worse. But minimizing your pain doesn't make it disappear. It only delays your healing. You learn to normalize fatigue until it becomes your identity. You wear it like skin. You start calling it adulthood, maturity, or sacrifice. But the truth is, you've forgotten what it feels like to be light, to be soft, to be free. Energy doesn't just drain from what we do. It also drains from what we don't do. Not speaking up when something hurts you. Not expressing your true feelings. Not grieving the things you've lost. Not forgiving yourself. Suppression is a silent killer of energy. When you bottle up emotions, they don't vanish. They harden. They tighten your chest, exhaust your heart, and clog your mind. You start living in emotional tension, and the body mirrors it. You might even start to feel it in your joints, your back, your stomach, because the body remembers what the mind tries to bury. There's also the exhaustion that comes from performing, from always having to appear okay. We live in a world that rewards a mask, the curated image, the filtered version of ourselves. But every time you deny your truth to maintain an image, you betray your soul. And soul betrayal costs more than we ever realize. It creates a slow spiritual death, one where you're breathing, but not alive. And then there's the deeper wound, self-abandonment. This is when you stop checking in with yourself, when you dismiss your own needs, when you reach out to fix everyone else while ignoring the fact that you're breaking inside. It's the belief that you come last, or worse, that you don't count. Over time, this belief becomes your foundation, and you begin to operate as though your purpose is to hold others up, even if it means crumbling in the process. But the soul always knows. It remembers who you were before you were exhausted. It remembers your voice before you learned to quiet it. It remembers your laughter before the weight of the world sat on your shoulders. And no matter how far you feel from yourself, no matter how tired or numb or lost, that inner voice still whispers, "Come home." Coming home begins with truth. That truth might hurt. It might reveal that you've been living out of alignment, that you've let people stay too long, that you've said yes too many times when your heart screamed no, that you've poured from an empty cup hoping someone would notice and fill it for you. But no one is coming to rescue you. And that's not a tragedy. It's an awakening. Because if no one is coming, then you must come for yourself. You must become the one who notices your pain, who honors your tired bones, who says enough. And here's the miracle. The moment you start reclaiming your energy, even a little, life begins to shift. You start making decisions that honor you. You begin feeling things again, not just the pain, but also the wonder. The small joys return. The sun feels warmer. The music feels deeper. The moments last longer. You begin to come alive in ways you thought were gone forever. The power is within. It's not in a pill, a person, or a perfect plan. It's already inside you, waiting. But you cannot reclaim that power without first facing the truth of where you've leaked, given away, or lost it. That's what this chapter is for, to help you remember what it feels like to feel. So take a breath, a real one. Feel your chest rise. Feel your body soften. Let this be your permission to stop pushing, to stop pretending, and to start feeling again. You do not have to earn rest. You do not have to explain your exhaustion. You only need to be honest. And in that honesty, you will begin to heal. You will begin to return. You will begin to rise. Chapter 2. The Power Within. Understanding the source of your inner energy. You are not empty. You were never empty. What you feel is not the absence of energy, but the absence of connection to it. Your power was not stolen. It was misplaced, buried under noise, expectations, obligations, and the emotional clutter that life quietly piles onto us. Before you can truly reclaim your energy, you must understand what it really is and where it comes from. Because energy is more than just sleep, food, or movement. It's the invisible life force that animates you, the spark behind your voice, the warmth behind your laughter, the stillness behind your knowing. It's what gives meaning to motion and soul to structure. And it lives within you, waiting to be remembered. When most people talk about energy, they think only of the physical kind, the kind that makes your limbs move and your eyes stay open through a long day. But physical energy is just the surface layer. Beneath that are deeper, more sacred wells, emotional energy, spiritual energy, and creative energy. These are the forces that shape not just how you move, but how you live. Emotional energy fuels your connections, your empathy, your ability to love, forgive, and be vulnerable. Spiritual energy gives you direction, meaning, and an anchor when life becomes uncertain. Creative energy is your ability to imagine, to build, to dream, to innovate, even if you don't consider yourself creative in the traditional sense. Every human holds these forces inside them. You don't earn them. You were born with them. Science tells us that human beings are energy. At the atomic level, we are made up of vibrating particles, constantly moving, constantly shifting. Your thoughts carry frequencies. Your emotions affect your heartbeat. Your environment, the people around you, and your inner dialogue all have measurable impact on your nervous system and brain activity. In other words, your energy is both real and responsive. It changes based on what you believe, how you feel, and what you allow into your space. You are a living, breathing field of energy. And when that field is balanced, you thrive. When it's out of alignment, you feel off, mentally, emotionally, and even physically. Spirituality echoes this science with language that feels more poetic, but no less true. Across cultures, the concept of life force has always existed. It's the understanding that we are more than bodies and brains. We are soul-driven beings, with a pulse that beats in harmony with something greater. When we ignore this spiritual layer, we lose touch with the very essence that keeps us feeling whole. We start looking outward for validation, for excitement, for escape, all while the real source of power sits patiently within, waiting to be rediscovered. Energy flows where alignment lives. When you live in sync with your truth, your values, your voice, your purpose, energy flows freely. You feel light, clear, and grounded. Your decisions become easier. Your relationships feel more honest. You stop performing and start being. This is alignment, when your inner world and outer world reflect each other. But when you ignore your truth, when you suppress your needs, or live according to someone else's story, energy gets blocked. That's misalignment. It may show up as anxiety, burnout, confusion, or even physical illness. Your body and mind are not trying to punish you. They are signaling you. They are asking you to come back into alignment, to return to yourself. To do that, you must find your internal compass. That compass is made up of three things: purpose, values, and intuition. Your purpose doesn't have to be grand or global. It could be the simple, quiet desire to create beauty, to nurture others, to speak truth, to bring light to dark places. Purpose gives your energy direction. Values define how you want to live while moving toward that purpose. Do you value honesty, freedom, peace, growth? Once you define your values, you begin to shape your life in a way that protects your energy instead of draining it. And then there's intuition, your inner knowing. That quiet voice inside that always knew when something felt wrong, even when you couldn't explain it. When you begin listening to that voice again, you unlock one of the deepest sources of inner energy. Because intuition always leads you back to what's real. Here's the truth many people never hear. You do not need to be fixed. You are not broken. You are disconnected. You have been taught to ignore your body's signals, to silence your heart's voice, and to mistrust your own wisdom. But underneath the noise, your power still lives. Not in someone else's approval. Not in future achievements. Right here, right now within you. The path to reclaiming your energy is not about becoming something new. It's about returning to what's always been there. Your soul already knows the way. This chapter is simply a mirror, reflecting back to you what you've forgotten. That the power is within. You are the source. You are the answer. And every step forward begins with remembering that truth. The next chapter will show you how to begin reclaiming that truth, not by adding more to your life, but by subtracting what no longer serves. Healing doesn't always begin with action. Sometimes, it begins with permission. Permission to rest. Permission to listen. Permission to feel. And permission to come home. If you've spent years ignoring your inner compass, it's okay. Many of us were taught to trust the outside world more than our own instincts. We were conditioned to prioritize logic over feeling, productivity over presence, and perfection over authenticity. From an early age, we learned how to adapt to survive. We learned how to make others comfortable, how to blend in, how to meet expectations. But in the process, we slowly drifted away from ourselves. And that drifting didn't happen with sirens or flashing lights. It happened quietly, subtly, in the spaces where you said yes when your soul whispered no. In the moments you swallowed your truth to keep someone else from leaving. In the jobs you took, the roles you played, the silence you kept just to stay safe. These are the moments when your energy began to scatter. But now, you are being invited to call it back. Calling back your energy means reclaiming the parts of yourself you've left behind. The joy you tucked away in order to be responsible. The creativity you buried because someone told you it wasn't practical. The tears you never cried because you were too busy being strong. The voice you silenced because it was easier to stay quiet. These pieces are not gone. They're waiting. And with each act of awareness, with each moment of honesty, you begin to retrieve them. This process is not loud. It doesn't require you to quit your job, change your name, or move across the country. Sometimes it starts by simply sitting still and asking yourself, what do I need right now? Not what should I do? Not what does the world expect? But what does my soul need in this moment to feel seen, safe, and whole? You may be surprised at the answers. Sometimes, your inner self doesn't need more effort. It needs softness. It needs space to breathe. A walk outside without your phone. A night of uninterrupted sleep. A conversation that isn't about fixing anything, but simply being heard. Reconnection begins in these small sacred acts. The ones that seem too simple to matter, but hold the power to change everything. When you begin to understand energy as a full spectrum experience, not just calories burned or hours slept, but emotion felt, truth expressed, and alignment honored, you begin to relate to yourself differently. You begin to protect your energy not from fear, but from reverence. You stop giving it to people who don't value it. You stop wasting it on tasks that lead nowhere. You stop bleeding it out for people who only take and never give. Because now, you know what that energy is worth, and you know where it comes from. This realization is a homecoming, and it comes with grief too, because you may suddenly realize how long you've been gone from yourself. You may feel sadness over how much you've endured, how long you've ignored the signs, how many pieces of yourself you've given away. Allow that sadness. Let it rise. It is a sign of awakening, not weakness. You are waking up to yourself, and that is always something sacred. This chapter is a turning point. It's where you stop searching for energy in the outside world and begin cultivating it from within. Your rest becomes holy. Your boundaries become sacred. Your emotions become guidance, not inconvenience. And your intuition becomes your compass, leading you not toward what's popular or expected, but toward what is true. You are not behind. You're not too late. You are exactly where your soul needed you to arrive. Here, in this awareness, ready to return. There is power in remembering. There is power in reclaiming. There is power in becoming still enough to hear the voice within again. That voice is saying, "Welcome back. You've been missed, but you were never lost, only waiting to be found." Chapter 3. The Sacred Pause. Learning to rest, reclaim, and reset. You were not born to live in constant motion. You were not created to be a machine. And yet, in a world that praises hustle and glorifies exhaustion, rest has become a rebellious act. To slow down is to risk being left behind. To pause is often misread as laziness. And to do nothing, even for a moment, is seen as wasting time. But what if the opposite is true? What if in rest, you don't lose time? You find yourself. The sacred pause is not just about sleep or stopping. It's a deliberate, intentional return to presence. It is where healing begins, creativity is born, and clarity is restored. But so many of us have been programmed to ignore this truth. We've been taught to measure our worth by our productivity, our value by our output, and our identity by how much we can endure. We push ourselves to the edge, running on empty, forgetting that even the most powerful engines need maintenance. And slowly, silently, we forget how to be still. Stillness is not the absence of movement. It is the presence of peace. It is the moment your breath finally catches up with your body. The moment your heart stops racing long enough for you to hear its rhythm again. In stillness, you reconnect with what is real, with what matters, with yourself. Solitude, too, is often misunderstood. In a hyper-connected world, being alone feels strange, even threatening. But solitude is not loneliness. It is the space where your soul stretches, where your thoughts land gently, and where your truth has room to rise. In solitude, you are not escaping the world. You are returning to your center. In mindful silence, the practice of sitting with yourself without distraction becomes the sacred ground where your truest voice begins to speak again. It may whisper at first, because it has gone unheard for too long, but it will speak, and when it does, it will guide you home. To rest is to reclaim your energy, but to truly rest, you must learn to set boundaries, especially energetic ones. That means honoring the spaces where your energy is leaking and learning how to say no without guilt. This can be one of the hardest shifts to make. Many of us were raised to believe that saying no is selfish, that putting ourselves first is wrong. But protecting your energy is not selfish, it is sacred. You cannot give what you don't have. You cannot pour from a cup that is cracked and dry. Every time you say yes to something that drains you, you are saying no to something that could restore you. Setting boundaries is not about pushing others away. It's about drawing a loving line around your peace, your time, and your well-being. The sacred pause becomes even more powerful when it is paired with conscious practices, simple, gentle acts that remind your body and mind that it is safe to slow down. Breath work is one of the most accessible tools for this. Just by pausing to take a deep, full breath, you activate the body's natural healing response. Inhale presence. Exhale pressure. With each breath, you remind yourself, I am here. I am enough. I am safe. Nature, too, is a great healer. reconnection with the earth, even for a few minutes a day, resets your nervous system in ways no phone, app, or supplement can. Walk barefoot on grass. Listen to birdsong. Watch the clouds drift. These are not luxuries. They are soul medicine. Digital detox, although difficult in a hyper-connected age, is becoming a necessary form of self-care. When you are constantly scrolling, consuming, reacting, and comparing, your mind stays overstimulated and your soul grows numb. Choose sacred windows of time when your phone is off, when notifications can't find you, when your attention returns to your own life, not someone else's highlight reel. And then there is conscious rest, the kind that goes beyond sleep. This is the rest of letting go, the rest of saying, I don't have to fix everything right now. The rest of dropping into the present moment without the need to perform. It is the moment you allow your shoulders to drop, your jaw to unclench, your breath to deepen. Conscious rest may look like journaling. It may look like lying on the floor with soft music. It may look like sipping tea in silence. The form doesn't matter. What matters is the intention, to come home to yourself. In these quiet spaces, something beautiful happens. Clarity begins to emerge. When the noise fades, the answers you've been chasing begin to rise. Not from the outside, but from within. Creativity returns, no longer blocked by the chaos. Confidence begins to rebuild, because now you are no longer reacting to the world. You are responding from a place of grounded truth. When you give yourself permission to pause, to truly rest and reset, you come back stronger, wiser, and more whole. This chapter is not asking you to abandon your responsibilities or stop striving for your goals. It is asking you to create space within the striving, to recognize that your worth is not defined by how much you achieve, but by how deeply you are connected to yourself in the process. You do not need to earn rest. You are worthy of it simply because you are alive. When you reclaim the sacred pause, you begin to live from fullness instead of depletion. You begin to offer your presence, not just your performance. You begin to feel the richness of moments, the softness of your breath, the stillness between the noise. And in that space, you rediscover the truth. You were never too tired to keep going. You were too disconnected to feel your own power. Rest is not where the journey ends. It's where the real journey begins. Rest is radical in a world that demands your constant engagement. Everything around you is designed to keep you stimulated, to keep you scrolling, moving, responding, as if stillness itself is a sin. You're praised when you're booked and busy, but rarely celebrated for being present and peaceful. The hustle culture has glorified burnout, turning rest into something you feel guilty about, like you have to earn it after you've bled yourself dry. But rest is not a reward. It is your birthright. It is not only your body that begs for rest. Your spirit does too. You may sleep 8 hours and still wake up feeling heavy, not because your body is weak, but because your soul is tired. Tired of holding in your emotions. Tired of pretending to be okay. Tired of staying strong for everyone else. That's why the sacred pause isn't about lying in bed all day or escaping life. It's about becoming aware of what you've been carrying and giving yourself the space to finally put it down. It's in the pause that you begin to notice what you've been ignoring. The subtle tension in your chest, the ache in your lower back, the dull sadness in your eyes, the small things you keep brushing off in the name of being productive. When you stop, even for a moment, your body begins to speak. And if you listen, really listen, you will realize it has been trying to get your attention for years. You don't need a retreat in Bali to rest. You don't need a spa weekend or an expensive wellness coach. What you need is permission. Permission to unplug. Permission to do less. Permission to listen to your body, to take a walk instead of answering one more email, to sit under the sky and remember that you are part of something vast, something sacred. The sacred pause is not a luxury reserved for the privileged. It is a necessity for the soul. There is deep intelligence in slowing down. When you rest intentionally, you become more aware of what you're creating and why. You begin to ask better questions. Not just, what do I need to do? But what do I want to feel? What do I want to carry forward? What am I holding on to that no longer belongs to me? In the quiet, your heart becomes louder. Your desires become clearer. Your voice, the one you thought you lost, begins to return. This is where reclamation begins. When you create space within yourself, your energy begins to refill. Not overnight, not all at once, but in steady, sacred drops. And as you begin to reset, the old version of you, the one who could only function through pressure and noise, begins to fade. You don't need her anymore. You no longer belong to chaos. You belong to your breath, to your peace, to your truth. There's a stillness that lives underneath the surface of all things, a rhythm you can't hear when you're rushing. But when you pause, even for a moment, you tune back in. You remember that the sun rises without alarm clocks, that the ocean moves without permission, that healing happens in the dark, in the quiet, beneath the soil. And so will you. You don't become powerful by doing more. You become powerful by knowing when to stop, when to surrender, when to listen. The sacred pause teaches you that you are not what you do. You are not what you achieve. You are not what others expect. You are a soul and a body, and your energy matters. Your peace matters. Your rest is part of your purpose. And when you begin to live from that truth, everything changes. Your creativity no longer comes from pressure. It flows from inspiration. Your confidence no longer comes from performing. It rises from authenticity. You don't need to be louder to be heard. You just need to be present, aligned, awake. In this space, the old beliefs begin to melt away. The idea that rest is laziness. The idea that you must prove your worth. The idea that you can only stop when everything is done. You begin to realize that your life is not a checklist. It is a sacred experience. And every time you pause, you deepen that experience. You feel more. You connect more. You live more. So let this be your reminder. Stillness is not the absence of life. It is the presence of depth. In the stillness, you recover your energy. In the pause, you hear the whispers of your next right step. And in rest, you do not fall behind. You rise with purpose and power. This is the gift of the sacred pause. It isn't loud. It isn't urgent, but it is life-changing. And now, with a little more space in your spirit and a little more softness in your breath, you are ready to begin the next chapter, where the slow rebuild begins, where the energy you've reclaimed is shaped into a life that truly serves you, where the flame you've reignited is no longer flickering, but steady, warm, and unshakable. You're not just pausing anymore. You're preparing for renewal, for expansion, for the return of the real you. Chapter 4. The Energy Rituals, Daily Practices to Recharge and Rebuild. There is something sacred about the ordinary. In a world obsessed with grand transformations, we often overlook the quiet power of consistency. We think healing must look dramatic, like a life overhaul or a spontaneous awakening. But the truth is, transformation happens in the smallest shifts, the daily choices, the quiet, almost invisible acts of self-respect that no one claps for, but that slowly and surely rebuild your power from the inside out. Rituals are not just routines. They are sacred agreements between you and your energy. They are the ways you remind yourself, every single day, that you are worthy of protection, care, and nourishment. While routines are often rooted in efficiency, rituals are rooted in intention. And when intention meets consistency, you unlock a rhythm that allows your energy to not just return, but thrive. Your morning is your foundation. The way you begin the day sets the tone for everything that follows. Waking up and immediately checking your phone, diving into notifications and noise, pulls your energy outward before you've even returned to yourself. But when you begin the day with stillness, even 5 minutes of silence, breath, gratitude, or gentle movement, you reclaim your own rhythm before the world can impose its chaos on you. A powerful morning ritual doesn't have to be long. It just has to be yours. A moment to check in. A moment to ask, what do I need today? What do I want to feel? What do I let go of right now? These questions realign you with your center. The same goes for how you end your day. Your night ritual is your invitation to release, to exhale the tension, to separate your identity from your productivity, to remind yourself that rest is not the reward for a finished to-do list. It is the gift you give your body and mind regardless of how much you got done. The energy you take into your sleep determines the energy you wake up with. A few moments of conscious breath, journaling, stretching, or simply dimming the lights and saying to yourself, I did enough today. This is not small. This is powerful. These rituals form the boundary between your soul and the world's demands. In between your mornings and your nights, you face dozens of moments where your energy is either preserved or depleted. One of the most potent tools in your hands is the power of no. Saying no is not rejection. It is redirection. It is the practice of choosing what aligns with your peace over what pleases others. Every time you say yes to something that drains you, you abandon yourself a little. But every time you say no to something that violates your boundaries, you tell yourself, I matter. My energy matters. Protecting your emotional space does not mean shutting everyone out. It means choosing who and what gets access to your heart, your attention, your presence. It's not selfish, it's wise. Your daily habits are either expanding your energy or leaking it. High vibration habits are practices that uplift you, anchor you, and bring you back to center. Movement is one of the most underestimated forms of emotional release. You don't need a gym or a personal trainer to move your body with intention. A walk outside, a stretch, a slow dance in your room. Movement shakes off the emotional dust we collect during the day and reminds your body that it is still alive, still strong, still worthy of care. Mindset, too, is a habit. The thoughts you feed yourself become the fuel that either empowers or exhausts you. Speak to yourself like someone you love. When your inner voice is kind, curious, and compassionate, your energy naturally rises. Affirmations, mantras, and declarations are not magic words. They are tools that help rewire your nervous system to feel safe, seen, and supported. And when your inner world feels safe, your outer energy becomes magnetic. Then there is meditation, the practice of stilling the mind to hear your deeper self. Meditation is not about achieving perfect silence. It's about creating space. Space between you and your thoughts. Space between reaction and response. Even 5 minutes a day of mindful breathing or sitting with your eyes closed can restore a sense of calm that no external solution can offer. This isn't about becoming a monk. It's about learning how to return to yourself over and over again, until that return becomes your default. Energy rituals are also about clearing. You must become brave enough to release what no longer serves you, not just physically, but emotionally and mentally. Old commitments that drain you, relationships that keep you stuck, habits that leave you feeling heavy. Letting go is hard because we confuse it with loss. But sometimes letting go is the beginning of gain, of space, of peace, of possibility. If it doesn't pour into your life, if it doesn't honor your growth, if it doesn't reflect your truth, it's costing you more than you think. These daily practices are not glamorous. They won't always feel profound. But that's the point. The rituals that truly change us are the ones we do on the days we don't feel like it. When you show up for yourself in quiet ways, consistently, you build an unshakable inner trust. You begin to believe in your own power again. You begin to understand that you don't need to chase energy. You need to tend to it. You don't need to wait for the perfect moment. You need to begin with what you have. Small shifts, done daily, lead to lasting power. A single deep breath before a difficult conversation. A decision to put your phone down and be fully present at dinner. A moment of stillness before stepping into the chaos. These aren't just good habits. They're sacred acts of rebellion in a world that wants you to stay exhausted and distracted. You are not powerless. You're not weak. You are simply in need of rhythm, of ritual, of remembering. And as you begin to build these daily energy practices, you won't just feel better. You'll feel different. More grounded, more present, more you. You won't need to announce your healing. Your energy will speak for you. There will be days when even your rituals feel heavy, when the breath feels shallow, when the journaling feels forced, when your body resists movement, when your mind won't settle. On those days, remember this. It's not about perfection. It's about presence. Energy rituals are not boxes to tick. They are gentle lifelines to your essence. Their power is not in how long or flawlessly you practice them, but in the fact that you show up again and again for yourself. The more you show up, the more your energy recalibrates. You start to notice when something feels off, not because you've failed, but because now you're paying attention. You begin to track how certain conversations make your stomach tighten, how certain environments deplete you even when you're standing still. You become aware of the subtle ways your body communicates, and this awareness is the beginning of mastery. You realize that energy isn't just about doing things right. It's about doing things intuitively. You begin tailoring your rituals around your natural rhythm instead of forcing yourself into someone else's formula. Maybe you need movement in the morning to wake your spirit, or silence at night to melt the day away. Maybe your meditation looks like cooking, or your therapy is found in dance. Maybe your prayer is a quiet walk under moonlight. There are no rules, only resonance. What makes you feel more like yourself? What brings you back to life? What restores you, not just in body, but in soul? This is where energy rituals become sacred, not in their appearance, but in their effect. They protect you from drifting. They help you course correct when life becomes noisy. They remind you of your own resilience when self-doubt creeps in. And slowly, something powerful happens. You stop outsourcing your energy to external validation. You stop waiting for someone else to fill your cup, to motivate you, to tell you who you are. Because now, you are filled from within. You begin to recognize what is not yours to carry. You stop taking responsibility for other people's moods, their expectations, their chaos. You no longer feel the need to over-explain your no, or apologize for needing space. You stop giving away your energy in the name of being nice. You learn the difference between being kind and being self-abandoning. And that difference changes everything. There's a silent power that grows in you as your rituals deepen. You find yourself less reactive, less easily shaken, more anchored, even in storms. The things that once drained you no longer feel magnetic. The people who once triggered you no longer have access to your center. You are no longer the mercy of the outside world because you have built an inner sanctuary. And that sanctuary is made of moments, daily, consistent, intentional moments that add up to a life rooted in peace. These practices don't just heal you, they shape your future. The way you begin your day affects the way you respond to life. The way you end your day determines the quality of your sleep, which then shapes the clarity of your mind. The boundaries you set today protect your energy tomorrow. The breath you take before reacting rewires your nervous system for calm. Every small act becomes a vote for the version of you who is whole, present, and powerful. And perhaps the most beautiful part of these rituals is that they are entirely yours. They don't belong to any trend, any influencer, any external program. They belong to you. You can change them. You can expand them. You can return to them after seasons of neglect, and they will still welcome you with open arms. Because energy rituals are not about discipline. They are about devotion. Devotion to your wholeness, to your peace, to your return. You don't need to fix yourself. You need to tend to yourself. Water your roots. Nurture your nervous system. Feed your soul. And watch how everything else responds. When your energy is full, your relationships evolve. Your decisions become clearer. Your body heals. Your creativity flows. Your voice steadies. And life no longer feels like a fight. It feels like a rhythm. This chapter is not about doing more. It's about doing what matters, with presence, with care, and with intention. It's a reminder that small things, done with love, have the power to change your life. That the way you live today is your future in motion. That every ritual is a seed. And when you plant it daily, even in the soil of exhaustion, something will grow. Chapter 5. The Return. Living as the most energized version of you. There comes a moment, after the stillness, after the healing, after the slow rebuilding, when you begin to feel something shift. It may begin as a whisper, a quiet urge to move, to speak, to show up again. But this time, it feels different. This time, you are not running on fumes. This time, you're not dragging yourself through life. This time, you're moving from fullness. You're no longer surviving. You're returning. The return is not a dramatic transformation where everything suddenly becomes perfect. It's a steady rising, like the morning sun, quiet, consistent, certain. It's the moment you look around and realize you've come home to yourself. Your identity is no longer scattered across the expectations of others or buried beneath roles you outgrew. You remember who you are, and more importantly, you believe in who you are. Living as the most energized version of yourself means living with intention, not obligation. You wake up and begin to choose your life, rather than be pulled by it. You are no longer defined by your past exhaustion, but by your current alignment. You are reclaiming your identity, not through force, but through clarity. You now know what fuels you. You know what drains you. And with that knowledge comes the power to create a life that supports your energy instead of stealing it. Purpose returns, not as something you chase, but as something that flows naturally from you. It may not be tied to a specific job or title. It may simply be the way you move through the world with presence, the way you speak truth with gentleness, the way you create safe spaces with your energy. Your purpose is encoded in your being. And when you protect your energy, it naturally rises to the surface. But perhaps the most beautiful part of this return is that it's not just about you. When your energy is healed, you begin to uplift others without losing yourself in the process. You no longer feel the need to fix, to rescue, to carry what isn't yours. You hold space for others, but you do not shrink for them. You can support people without sacrificing your peace. You can love deeply while remaining rooted in your own light. Because now you understand, the best way to help others rise is to stay risen. You become a lighthouse, not a rescuer, not a savior, but a steady beam of light that reminds others what's possible. You don't have to shout. You don't have to convince. You simply live aligned, and your presence does the talking. People begin to feel safer around you, not because you have all the answers, but because your energy is clean, clear, and calm. And that kind of energy is rare in a world of noise. To live in this new frequency, you must become intentional with your time, your space, and your decisions. This is where your energy vision plan comes in, a personal roadmap that helps you stay connected to what matters most. Over the next 90 days, how do you want to feel? What would your days look like if your energy was honored? Who would you spend time with? What would you say no to without guilt? What rituals would you protect, no matter how busy life gets? This plan is not about perfection. It's about choosing direction over distraction. You might write down a few words that represent your energy goals. Calm, focused, joyful, present. You might map out a daily rhythm that aligns with your natural energy cycles. Honoring when you feel most creative, when you need rest, and when you thrive in connection. You might plan digital breaks, sacred mornings, solo walks, intentional meals, and quiet evenings. Not because someone told you to, but because you feel the difference when you live in tune with yourself. This return is not something you schedule once and forget. It is something you renew every single day. There will still be hard days. There will still be people who test your boundaries, situations that ask for more than you can give. But now, you have foundation. You have tools. You have awareness. You don't have to lose yourself again. You can pause. You can breathe. You can choose again. And every time you choose your energy over your ego, your peace over pressure, your truth over performance, you come home to yourself again. Living as the most energized version of you is not about being perfect. It's about being real. It's about showing up in your fullness, not your facade. It's about walking into rooms without shrinking, speaking without apologizing, resting without guilt, and creating without fear. This is what happens when you protect your power. You shine, and your light gives others permission to shine too. Your calm becomes contagious. Your boundaries become inspiring. Your joy becomes magnetic. You don't just change your life. You ripple into others. You plant seeds of energy in everyone you meet. And slowly, silently, you begin to shift the world. The return is not the end of the journey. It is the beginning of a new one. One led by energy, not exhaustion. By intention, not impulse. By self-trust, not self-doubt. You have come so far. And yet, this is just the beginning. Your power is within. Your energy is sacred. Your life, your real life, is calling. You begin to recognize that your energy is not simply a tool for getting things done. It is your signature. It's what people feel when you walk into a room. It's what lingers when you leave. It's what makes your voice resonate, your presence unforgettable, your ideas magnetic. You're no longer performing to be liked, working to prove your worth, or living by default. You are creating from a deeper place now, a place of alignment, truth, and overflow. This is what reclaiming your identity truly means. It's not just remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. It's about rising into who you are always becoming. It's the fusion of all your lessons, your scars, your resilience, your softness, and your power. It's looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, "This is me," not the watered-down version, not the exhausted shadow, but the whole, present, vibrant me. And from that place, everything shifts. Decisions come with clarity because you're no longer choosing from fear. You're choosing from alignment. Your relationships evolve, not because you force change, but because you've raised your energetic standard. Some people will leave. Some dynamics will fade. Let them. That, too, is part of the return. You no longer need to beg for what you're willing to embody. You begin to understand that energy is not about being high vibe all the time. It's about honoring your truth in each moment. It's knowing when to say yes with joy and when to say no with peace. It's feeling when you need to push and when you need to pause. It's trusting that your inner rhythm is wiser than the noise of the world. When you protect your power, you become unshakable. Not because life stops being hard, but because you no longer betray yourself when it is. You stop defaulting to old patterns. You stop running on survival mode. You stop apologizing for needing time, space, or solitude. You stop explaining your boundaries to those committed to crossing them. You stop handing your energy to everything that doesn't feed your fire. And in doing so, you step fully into your sovereignty, the knowing that you are the source, not the seeker. You begin to live from overflow, not the kind of overflow that burns you out, but the kind that expands you. You give, but you do not deplete. You help, but you do not bleed. You show up for others, but you don't disappear. Your healed energy becomes a gift, not a sacrifice. You become a safe place for others, because you are a safe place for yourself. You no longer absorb people's chaos. You reflect calm. You no longer mirror their fear. You hold your light. And in doing so, you remind them they can do it too. That is the legacy of a healed, energized soul. You become the evidence that it is possible to live differently, to protect your peace without shutting down, to be kind without being a doormat, to shine without guilt. You lead, not through perfection, but through presence, not through performance, but through truth. And when others witness that, not in your words, but in your being, they begin to wonder what's possible for them too. Your life becomes a quiet revolution, a lighthouse in a tired world. And that light spreads, not because you force it, but because you are it. So what now? You live, fully, loudly, softly, honestly. You create space for joy. You rest without apology. You speak your needs. You take up space. You honor your no. You nurture your yes. You choose slow over rushed, truth over nice, wholeness over hustle. You move forward, not as the version of you the world shaped, but as the one you remembered in stillness. The one you recovered through rest, the one you rebuilt through ritual, the one you now carry forward, whole, energized, and deeply alive. Because now you understand, your energy is your power is your light, and your light is not meant to be hidden. It is meant to lead. Welcome back. Stay here. Shine.